If you would have asked me when I was in my 50s if I had problems with my weight, I would have probably told you I did not. And the reason is because I was a lifetime Weight Watcher member. And the way that I managed my weight was I would go to Weight Watchers and count my points to lose the same 20 pounds. And then as soon as it was over, I would go back to eating the way I felt I couldn't eat when I had to lose weight.
Welcome to another episode of the Matter Over Mind Experience. I'm your host, Master Trainer, and Weight Management Expert, Narado Zico Powell. And today, your boy is honored because he has a certified weight loss and life coach with over 30 years of experience in acupuncture, nutrition, and chiropractic care, Deb Butler. So she has a wealth of information that she's going to share with you today. And she's a fellow podcaster. So yeah, she has a lot of stuff to share. With that being said, Deb, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here. And yes, I'm a fellow podcaster and I love your show. And I'm excited to just talk about things that we both have in common. And also that I'm a life coach, master life coach now after being a chiropractor for many, many years. I kind of switched gears.
You did do that. And that's actually my first question. Why did you switch gears?
It's such a good question. And I think like when I was in my 50s, which is for a lot of women, it's a transitional state. And I had been practicing for many, many years with my husband. And I just wanted to do something. I was bored. And I also think that when I chose to be a chiropractor, I was pretty young. I thought I was old, but I was actually pretty young. And I think what I love to do more than anything, and I didn't realize it until I was in my 50s, is that I would rather get in people's heads than work on people's bodies.
That's powerful. So tell me more
And
about that. Tell me more about that. You're rather get in people's heads. What do you mean? Are you going in there and dancing in my brain and changing my brain waves? I mean, give me more. Give me more.
well, as a chiropractor, one of the problems that I had in my office is that it was hard for me to stay on time. And the reason it was hard to stay on time is because I loved talking to my patients and getting deeper than how's the weather and how's your pain, but more like, why are you doing that? And why aren't you doing this? And you know what? I mean, to really understand what goes on in somebody's minds, it can't be a 2-minute conversation. And I think that was my gift, was that I could go in and really help people do the things that would actually help them either get more healthy, get out of pain. But I think I was good at it because I could talk to them and take the time to understand what was in their way. And and working on their bodies was what I was doing, but I think actually most of the healing was coming from me talking to them.
I love that. I
And I think I was
released
a good
a.
chiropractor too.
I'm sure you were. I'm sure you were. I never worked with you personally, but from what I know about
Yeah.
you, I can definitely tell that you were. I mean, I myself, I've realized that even with my clients as well, my clients that started to make mental changes in how they look at things are the ones that got the best results. Because I've had people who try to do the all or nothing mentality, or they're on again,
Yes.
they're off again. But the people that
Oh,
dive
yeah.
deep into their psyche of what's actually going on, learning how they're motivated, learning what
Yes.
triggers them, learning why they
Yes.
have cravings. So cravings is not always a physical thing. A lot of times it's a mental thing. Like once you break that down, that's when the
Yes.
change starts to happen. And you know what, too, Deb? That's when it becomes a lifelong thing, right? And with
Yes.
that being said, I want to ask you something because you even have a breakthrough with your health and your personal weight loss. So tell us more about that story and how that led you into changing your thought process as well.
If you would have asked me when I was in my 50s if I had problems with my weight, I would have probably told you I did not. And the reason is because I was a lifetime Weight Watcher member. And the way that I managed my weight was I would go to Weight Watchers and count my points to lose the same 20 pounds. And then as soon as it was over, I would go back to eating the way I felt I couldn't eat when I had to lose weight. And so I was either on Weight Watchers or I was off. And when I was off, I had no connection to my body at all, didn't care. I'm a chiropractor, I'm a nutrition, I tell people what to eat. I was grocery shopping in the middle of the night so that I could eat something if I wasn't on Weight Watchers. And so I thought, well, I'm a lifetime Weight Watcher member. I've got this together. But really, I lost like 250 pounds in my life 30 times.
Like 20 pounds at a time, right?
It's like when I got to the state of this, what's going on with my life kind of thing, and what do I want to be doing? And I was very attracted to life coaching and started working on being coached on my own mind about, do I want to stay in chiropractic or not? And what kind of work would I want to do with women? What I really realized is that the problem I had that I didn't know is that I had no idea. And this was asked by me by the first coach I ever met that did weight loss, where she asked the simple question, why do you eat if you're not hungry? Like,
Mm,
who ca- I never cared about that. What do you mean? Why do I eat when I'm not hungry? Just tell me how I can lose my weight and let's get done with it. That doesn't matter. Or the other question was, do you know when you're hungry and do you know when you're full and do you stop?
mm,
I felt like that kind of got me thinking like I never thought about it. I went through all the way up into my 50 years of life with all of this knowledge, and it never occurred to me, am I hungry or am I full? It was more like, what can I eat and how much can I eat and how can I get as much in? How many points can I get in and still lose weight? I didn't, as much as I was involved with nutrition, I also wanted those in Weight Watchers at the time. There were all these foods that they would sell that were one pointers. For 1 point, you could eat this or that. And it was all terrible, nutritious food, but Miss Evolved over here that knows everything about food, one of those 1 pointers. I just thought, oh God, I can eat like 5 of them. Did it matter if I was hungry or full? Did it even matter if it was good for me? It mattered that I could eat that kind of food that was looking like a candy bar or looking like a cookie or looking like a whatever with not a lot of points. And I thought that was pretty smart.
And you say that, that's interesting, because a lot of those foods that they're selling are so bad for your gut. And a lot of people don't realize, and I'm sure
Terrible.
you know, that weight loss, that your gut plays a vital role in weight loss. The type of bacteria you have in your
Vital.
body determines if you gain or lose weight. And if you keep
Yeah.
feeding it with all this bad stuff, that's why you're on again, off again, because you don't have the right gut environment to promote long-term weight management. So then let me ask you a question, Deb, right?
Yeah.
Because as
Please.
going with the topic on weight loss, let's talk about women
Yeah.
a little bit, right? Because
Yeah.
women during menopause usually have a hard time losing weight, right? So, with your story, that what
Yes.
you went through, talk about women who are in menopause. Why would they have a hard time losing weight? What are some of the things that they can do, and tie that into your particular story?
The way I look at it is I work with women specifically, not just who are gaining weight in menopause, but also women who've been struggling with weight their whole life. And now menopause is making it harder than ever. Because that was me, is that once I hit menopause and I went to Weight Watchers to do my usual thing, the weight wasn't coming off. And I became much more interested in this idea, and as important as I believe nutrition is, I believe the connection into your body. It's like I think most women that I work with know what to eat, know what's good for them. It's why didn't I do it? Why don't they do it? And why aren't they concerned with being hungry and being full? Like, and people want to work with me just because I talk about teaching you how to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full, as if that is something nobody's ever heard of before.
So let me ask you something, Deb. You mentioned that.
Yeah,
So when you say eat, stop when you're full, eat when you're
yeah,
hungry, because somebody may could constantly hear that, right? And say, well,
yeah.
what does that really
Well,
mean?
that's a really good question, and I came up with a physical hunger scale that goes from a -10 to a +10. So -10 is starving and a +10 is full. And I start teaching people how to equate those numbers to their hunger and to their fullness, and teach the idea that what we want to do is to learn how to eat between the twos. It's just a number that I came up with what I think would be the time to eat and would be the time to stop. Like our bodies are wired to tell us when to eat and to tell us when to stop when we're young. Like it's really hard to make a little kid eat if they're not hungry. Pretty hard. They'll just throw it in your face. But you can take a grown woman and you give them something and they're not hungry and they'll eat it
Right.
because of other reasons. So we start with the idea of, and the reason menopause is so important is because if you've never eaten according to am I hungry or am I full, and you've only eaten for reasons like me, it's either all or nothing. I'm on a diet, so I'm not eating that, or my weight is good, so I am eating that, with no regard to the actual condition of what my body is asking me to do. And I think menopause is a good time to learn how to do that if you haven't learned it up until now. Because here's the thing, our appetite decreases over time. And how come our appetites aren't, how come we're not eating less?
Right.
And I think some people do. But I think the majority of us are eating for reasons other than physical hunger and are mixing up emotional hunger with physical hunger
You
and
know,
don't even know it.
I learned that because I did a Prolon fast for 5 days, right? It was all
Okay.
soups. You're familiar with Prolon, right? Right. So soups, omega
Yeah.
3s, for 5 days. And during the process, I was talking to one of my clients and I said, I'm realizing something. I wasn't physically hungry, but I wanted to eat because I usually eat at this particular time. But I wasn't
Exactly.
actually hungry. And I learned that about myself. So that's something that even I, who've been doing this for so many years, had to learn about
Exactly.
myself. I'm like, I'm not actually hungry, but I want to eat because I usually eat when I'm watching TV, like something like that.
Yes. It becomes emotional hunger. It's like your brain is saying, well, we should eat. We're watching TV. Your body is saying, don't feed me. I'm not hungry.
Right.
Your physical body is talking to you and your mind is talking to you. And that mind body connection is what I think, if you haven't learned it by the time you're 50, and unfortunately, I think it's an epidemic.
It
I
is.
can't
It
even
is
believe
definitely
how
is.
I can't believe how many people there are. Like when I started this podcast and this whole idea, I was amazed at how many people went through what I went through or that could relate to what I was talking about.
And so many who can't even they don't even know that they're going through it, and they need you to kind of
Right.
pull that out of them, right? Because like I said, I had the
That's
same
right.
situation myself, so I
Yeah.
definitely get it. Which leads me to my final question here, because you mentioned your podcast, you also do
Yeah.
sessions with clients. So give us
Yeah.
a breakdown of how you address these issues in your podcast, and a snippet of how you address these issues with your clients, and also how can we get in touch with you, learn more about your work, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Well, the uh, the podcast that I do, I think has all the tools that I teach. I've done 413 of them. And I think that if you would never work with me personally and just listen to the podcast, you could get, and I've had many, many people send me letters saying how much it's changed their lives without even ever talking personally to me. When you're working with me individually, I take you through, I call it the thinner piece process, because I don't want you to just lose weight and be thin, because I've been thin many times. I was never at peace, but I've been thin, but I was not at peace with food at all, or at with my body. So the thinner piece process is about how to manage your mind and your body together so that I mean, I don't think there should be off limit foods. I just don't think that cookies are going to be your staple. But I think that I call non-nutritious foods like that joy eats, where they're enjoyable and you can be very mindful about them. But most of the time you choose fuel eating, or what you consider nutritious food for your body, most of the time eating between the twos, which that goes from a -10 to a +10, and then to help women differentiate when they're eating emotionally and when they're eating physically, which is where the whole process and teaching comes in, is why did you eat if you weren't hungry? And there are many, many reasons and mind disconnections as to, like, your mind might say, but it's time to eat. Or your mind might say, but we're watching TV. This is what we do. Even though your body's saying, stop, I'm not hungry. And so working through that process, I think, makes a big difference in not only the connection to your own body, but it's like when you're connected into your body and you can hear those physical hunger scales and physical hunger, your emotions live in your body too, that you have been feeding. And if you
Mm.
stop feeding them, they will start directing you. So I call it life changing, because not only do you lose weight, but you change the way you see your life, because now you're feeling what's going on inside of you. And then we deal with the mind and the thoughts and the things that are causing that. So it is a full thinner piece process.
It's a full, complete process. I love that. Those are the best coaches in the world. Those are the people who can transform your life, who don't just put you on a diet and say, just eat this, eat
Exactly.
celery and I don't know, whatever, 5 days a week and you're
Exactly.
going to lose weight. They put you on a complete lifestyle change. And that's when you feel like a completely different person. Your
That's correct.
energy levels are higher. You have a better connection with yourself, better understanding of the people around you. You know why you do things and why you don't do things. It's such a
Exactly.
complete transformation, and that's absolutely wonderful. I'm going to make sure that the a link to Deb's podcast is in the show notes, and the show notes can be
Perfect.
zikahealth.com slash the thinner piece. But the show notes are also going to be in the description of the podcast as well. So you click on the description of the podcast, you can see a transcript of the conversation and also a link to get to her podcast as well. Go over 400 episodes giving you vital advice and guidance that you can use to transform your life. It's very rare and very powerful. So, Deb, thank you for being here. Everybody,
Thank you,
thank you for
Zico.
listening. Thank you for watching. We're out for the day, fam.